Hello, we're going to take another unpainted STL file and turn it into a painted miniature for TaleSpire or Tabletop Simulator. I had a backer suggest that I try this free dragon model from Solgood Creations, which turned out to be a good test because it's absolutely massive. It's 432 megabytes, 9 million vertices. Absolutely massive dragon model, and when I ran it yesterday, it took over 10 minutes and wouldn't process. So I've made some changes to the software to handle it better now, and we're going to try again. So for a big model like this, I'm going to bump the target polygon count up to 30,000, and instead of a 2K texture, we'll use a 4K texture since it's got a lot of surface area. With a typical mini, a smaller mini, this will go a little faster, but this will probably take 30 seconds or so to generate the low poly version and bake a normal map so that that wraps around it and makes it still look like it's high poly. Perfect. I'm going to start baking shadows. So there's our shadows, and now I'm having it bake the highlights and the creases to pull out the detail a little more. It's a great looking model. All right, we've got shadows and highlights. And now let's go into changing the color regions. We're setting up some color regions. I suspect that the automatic color regions are not going to do very well on this model. When you've got all these ridges and bumps, it's going to have a harder time finding the borders. So I think what we're going to do is just pull out the rock, and we'll pull out some of these bigger shapes. So I'm going to slide the slider over a little bit just to pull out some of the big shapes, and I'll turn those into their own areas. Maybe I'll pull out the eyes. I'm going to slide the slider a little finer and pull out just these talons. Did I get them all? That looks good enough. And I will make it more of a coarse division, and we'll grab the rock here. Looks like we've got some dirt separate from the rock. So I'll pull that out separately. There we go. So each of these regions that I'm pulling out now is going to be a separate region that you can bucket paint by itself. So look at that little guy. I don't know if these are armor or kind of like a bone growing out of it. And the rest we'll just leave as one chunk. We'll try to be a little artistic as we paint it up. So we'll hit apply regions. We'll take another few seconds to bake that information back onto the model so we can bucket paint it. There we go. So now we can bucket paint those regions separately, but before we do that, I'm actually going to use one of my favorite lighting tricks and pick maybe like a red glow, maybe orange, and make the brush big. I'm going to switch to airbrush, and I'm just going to paint on some glow from the front to make it look like he's like perched over a volcano or something. Maybe that was a little too much orange. Yeah, go back to red. Yeah, that's a good start. So I think I'm just going to stick with a simple color scheme here, and we'll do red scales. Oops, let's see. We'll do red scales for most of them, and I'll do some yellow on the underside, purple on top. So I'll pick a bronze. Make it not quite so smooth. I'm going to switch to airbrush again. Now I'm going to hit Z and go into isolate mode to just get the dragon body right now. I'm just going to put a little bit of paint here on the underside. Here on the tips of the limbs. On the tail. Now I'm going to switch to like a darker purple. I'm going to turn off paint through mode so that it just hits the back of the wings. And maybe make that a little darker. That was maybe a little too heavy-handed. But that looks pretty good. Uh-oh, I messed up the bottom here. I could blur it a bit, but I think I'm just gonna switch back to a yellow. I'll try to hit that again from the bottom with the soft airbrush. I'm going to put a little bit of white on the edges, just because gradients look cool. There we go. White talons, maybe? Maybe a little yellow. And I'll use that same color for these armor bits. And I might call that good. So let's go and get it ready to export to TaleSpire. We can place the head marker over where his head is. Doesn't have to be perfect. Hit marker will stick into the torso. Torch can come a little further down. And for the spell marker, I'll put it right next to his mouth so he can shoot lasers out of his mouth. This base shrink, so base size in TaleSpire is calculated automatically. If your mini is a little bit too big, bigger than the size you want, you can use this base shrink to automatically pull it in to try to get the base closer to what you want. Now we'll hit export TS mod. And while that's going, we'll open up TaleSpire and we'll see how he looks. I don't love that wing. If I were going to redo this, I'd make a little more of a gradient, I think. All right, there's the minis we did yesterday. Here's our dragon. Let's bring him over here. So we got some space. That looks pretty good. Torch is a bit light. If I were to do this again, I might lighten up all the colors a little bit. Make them shoot a laser. And that's it for this one.